Welcome back to our daily read aloud from Charlie and Chocolate Factory. I hope you had a great spring break. Let's jump right back into things. When we left off, they were in the really scary boat driving down the chocolate river. Hopefully you got to see that part of the movie. It's my favorite. Okay. Next chapter. Now that they've arrived to where he took them on his boat, chapter 19. It's titled The Inventing Room, Everlasting Gobstoppers, and Hair Toffee. And there are such things as everlasting gobstoppers. You can buy them at the store. Ask your parents about them. Okay, here we go. When Mr. Wonka shouted, "Stop the boat!" the Oompa Loompas jammed their oars into the river and backed water furiously. The boat stopped. The Oompa Loompas guided the boat alongside the red door. On the door it said, "Inventing Room, Private, Keep Out." Mr. Wonka took a key from his pocket, leaned over the side of the boat, put the key in the keyhole. "This is the most important room in the entire factory," he said. "All of my most secret new inventions are cooking and simmering in here. Old Fickle Grubber would give his front teeth to be allowed inside just for 3 minutes. So would Prodnose and Slugworth and all the other rotten chocolate makers. But now, listen to me. I want no messing about when you go in. No touching, no meddling, and no tasting. Is that agreed?" "Yes, yes," the children cried. "We won't touch a thing." Up to now, Mr. Wonka said, "Nobody else, not even the Oompa Loompas, has ever been allowed in here." He opened the door and stepped out of the boat into the room. The 4 children and their parents all scrambled after him. "Don't touch," shouted Mr. Wonka. "And don't knock over anything." Notice I shouted that because there's an exclamation point at the end of that sentence. Charlie Bucket stared around the gigantic room in which he now found himself. The place was like a witch's kitchen. All about him, black metal pots were boiling and bubbling on huge stoves, and kettles were hissing, pans were sizzling, and strange iron machines were clanking and spluttering, and there were pipes running all over the ceiling and walls, and the whole place was filled with smoke and steam and delicious, rich smells. Mr. Wonka himself had suddenly become even more excited than usual, and anyone could see that this was the room he loved best of all. He was hopping about among the saucepans and the machines like a child among his Christmas presents, not knowing which thing to look at first. He lifted the lid from a huge pot, took a sniff. Then he rushed over and dipped a finger into a barrel of sticky yellow stuff and had a taste. Then he skipped across the room. I lost my way, sorry. He skipped across to one of the machines and turned half a dozen knobs this way and that. Then he peered anxiously through the glass door of a gigantic oven, rubbing his hands and crackling with delight at what he saw inside. Then he ran over to another machine, a small, shiny affair that kept going foot, 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 foot. And every time it went foot, a large green marble dropped out of it into a bucket on the floor. Basket on the floor. At least it looked like a marble. "Everlasting gobstoppers," cried Mr. Wonka proudly. "They're completely new. I'm inventing them for children who are given very little pocket money. You can put an everlasting gobstopper in your mouth and you can suck it and suck it and suck it and suck it and suck it, and it will never get any smaller." "It's like gum," cried Violet Beauregard. "It is not like gum," Mr. Wonka said. "Gum is for chewing. And if you tried chewing one of the gobstoppers," get up. Hold on one second, guys. "And if you tried chewing one of the gobstoppers, here you'd break your teeth off. But they taste terrific. And they change color once a week. And they never get any smaller. They never disappear. Never. At least I don't think they do. There's one of them being tested at this very moment in the testing room next door, and Oompa Loompa is sucking it. He's been sucking it for very nearly a year now without stopping, and it's still just as good as ever. Now over here, Mr. Wonka went on, skipping excitedly across the room to the opposite wall. Over here, I am inventing a completely new line in toffees. He stopped beside a large saucepan. The saucepan was full of a thick, gooey, purplish, I wonder what that word is. Treacle? I'll have to look that one up, guys. Boiling and bubbling. By standing on his toes, little Charlie could just see inside it. That's hair toffee, cried Mr. Wonka. You eat just one tiny bit of that, and in exactly half an hour, a brand new, luscious, thick, silky, beautiful crop of hair will stop growing out all over the top of your head, and a mustache and a beard. A beard? Cried Brokasalt. Who wants a beard, for heaven's sake? It would suit you very well, said Mr. Wonka. But unfortunately, the mixture is not quite right yet. I've got it too strong. It works too well. I tried it on an Oompa Loompa yesterday in the testing room, and immediately a huge beard started shooting out of his chin. And the beard grew so fast that soon it was trailing all over the floor on a thick, hairy carpet. It was growing faster than we could cut it. In the end, we had to use a lawnmower to keep it in check. But I'll get the mixture right soon. And when I do, then there'll be no more excuses for little boys and girls going about with bald heads. But Mr. Wonka, said Mike TV, little boys and girls never do go about with... Don't argue, my dear child, please. Don't argue, cried Mr. Wonka. Such a waste of precious time. Now, over here, if you will all step this way, I will show you something that I am terrifically proud of. Oh, do be careful. Don't knock anything over. Stand back. Chapter 20 is called The Great Gum Machine. Now, boys and girls, in the testing room, where he was at, you heard that he showed the children the everlasting gobstopper. If you're following along with the movie, you know that there's a certain character in the movie that's really creepy. Do you remember his name, Wyatt? What's the guy that always whispers in the little kids' ears? Slugworth. What did he ask the kids to bring him back? And he said he would give them lots of money. The formula for what?
All the chocolate.
Nope, just one thing. The everlasting gobstopper. So, in the movie, you're going to see that Mr. Wonka gives all of the children an everlasting gobstopper when they go into the minting room. And do you think those children are going to go back to him and tell him the secrets?
No.
I know they're pretty bad kids. Who's the one that wouldn't do it because he's a good kid?
Charlie.
Probably Charlie. Okay, so here are your guys' questions. I had them pulled up on the computer, and then Wyatt used his feet to knock over the computer a second ago.
Sorry.
So we were on. These are the chapter questions that are under classwork in your Google Classroom. We're going to go all the way down to the chapter we just read. Chapter 19. Here we go. So here are the questions on chapter 19. Make sure I don't get that glare on there. Okay. Why was the inventing room the most important room in the entire factory? Ooh, that's a good question. Oh, don't tell anybody. Number 2. Why did Mr. Wonka believe that everlasting gobstoppers would last forever?